where he takes certain materials you've shared and really get into them, pulling out the key insights for you.
Basically getting to the heart of it without you having to read everything yourself.
Exactly. And today we're diving deep into Banu Mushtaq's Heart Lamp, Selected Stories. It's translated by Deepa Basti.
Right. And this collection, it really gives us a fascinating look into some incredibly diverse human experiences.
Absolutely. So our mission here isn't just, summarizing plots. We want to explore those themes that keep coming up.
Hmm.
The cultural nuances, the little details, and maybe some surprising human truths Mushtaq reveals.
And there's quite a range just looking at the contents. You've got stone slabs for Shasta Mahal, fire rain, all the way to be a woman once, O Lord.
And that translator's note, too, against italics. That seems important.
Oh, definitely. It's a really crucial starting point, actually. Deepa Basti explains her choice not to italicize the Kannada, Urdu, Arabic Dakni words woven through the text.
Why was that?
Well, she wanted to avoid, as she puts it, exoticizing these languages.
Yeah.
The idea is to give you, the reader, a more direct feel for the text.
So it reflects how people actually speak there, mixing languages naturally.
Exactly. It mirrors the everyday reality for the characters, the multilingual world they live in, without making it seem foreign or other.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's unpack this, starting with stone slabs for Shaista Mahal.
Right.
We meet Zinat and her husband Mujahid. They make a visit, kind of unexpectedly, to Shaista and Ishtikar.
Yeah, and Shaista's home seems much, well, larger, more spacious than Zinat's. The story opens with Zinat in her garden, a pretty normal scene. Then this visit happens.
And you immediately notice the difference in their homes. Shaista's place feels quite open.
Very different feel. And the dynamic there, Shaista Iftikhar, their 6 kids, plus the eldest, Asifa, it's all very open, too.
Yeah, Shaista's so candid, talking about family planning even. And you see Iftikhar's affection, the energy of this big family. It's a really vivid picture.
It is. And then what's really interesting is Shaista gets pregnant again, has her son at Shilpa Maternity Home in Mysuru.
And this leads to that whole discussion about postnatal care, right? The contrasting views.
Exactly. Because Shaista is back home and doing her usual things within just 15 days.
15 days.
Yeah, she explains she needs to stay warm and her husband relies on her. But this clashes completely with Amma's view.
Amma being the more traditional voice.
Yeah, she insists on a strict 40-day confinement, emphasizing how vulnerable new mothers are, the dangers of moving too soon.
It sounds like a real generational difference in perspective.
Definitely. Amma even mentions other communities, the Brahmra and Kshetri women, saying they follow this strict 40 days for health and strength. She contrasts it with Shaista's approach, seeing it as maybe a bit risky.
Using some stark imagery, too, about 40 graves.
Yes, that idea that danger lurks in that initial period.
Okay, but then, and this is where it got really interesting for me, just 15 days after the birth, Zinat and Mujahid are on a train, and who do they see at Belagola station?
Shaista and Iftikhar.
Yes. It's such a surprising detail. It really highlights Shaista's maybe more independent way of handling things.
It does. Or maybe, like you said, a need to maintain her own life, her connections, even so soon after birth.
Could be. It challenges those traditional ideas about confinement, for sure.
And Shaista's own reason is quite practical, isn't it? She says she feels fine, just needs to stay warm, recalls doing the same after her first daughter.
So maybe it's less about defying tradition and more about her own experience, or maybe time's changing.
Possibly both. It feels like a more personalized approach anyway.
But the story doesn't just leave it there, does it? It jumps forward.
Right. Zinat visits Shaista's home later, and it seems neglected. The kids aren't around.
And Zinat feels worried. She finds the door to Shaista's room is closed.
Yeah, it ends on this note of unease, doesn't it? No clear resolution.
It feels very deliberate, that ambiguity. Like, was there a hidden cost to her being so unconventional?
Exactly. Did she face problems we don't see? The story leaves you wondering, questioning the complexities behind your choices.
Okay, let's move to Fire Rain. This one starts with Mutawali Usman Sahib.
And we're right in the domestic scene again. His wife, Arifa, and their 6th son, Ansar. They're sleeping on a rug.
It immediately sets up Arifa as the caregiver, suggests some vulnerability.
Yes, but the Mutawali's thoughts are, well, complicated. He feels some guilt towards Arifa, sure, but he's also really agitated about his sister Jamila and her husband staying next door.
I'm worried about property.
Deeply worried about property division. That seems to be his main focus. alongside wanting to somehow punish Jamila.
It doesn't paint the most sympathetic picture initially, does it?
No, it sets up this internal conflict, this preoccupation with his own grievances. We see it again later, too.
How so?
Well, there's that moment with the young woman asking for help with her husband's medical bills. He's quite dismissive internally.
Ah, right. His focus is elsewhere.
Very much so. And then the big event happens, the death of Nisar, the painter.
And the controversy over his burial.
Yes, buried in the Hindu cemetery. The Mutawalli's reaction is intense. He gets the district commissioner involved, tries to get it sorted.
This really brings those community tensions about religious boundaries right to the surface.
It does. And what's fascinating is how obsessed the Mutawalli seems with the location of the burial, maybe more than the death itself. It's about the perceived transgression.
His interactions with the DC trying to get an order.
Yeah, and the DC seems a bit bewildered by the whole thing, by the Mutawalli's priorities. It makes you think about how rigid these boundaries can be.
Then there's that procession for the body, and the Mutawalli is worried. Is it even Nisar?
Right. It adds this almost darkly funny layer. Is he upholding tradition for the right person, even?
It shows him driven by this need for order, even when things are uncertain.
Definitely. He's relieved when the body is finally buried in the Muslim cemetery. But then that doubt creeps back in whose body was it. It highlights the anxiety that comes with focusing so rigidly on these lines.
And the story brings in another Mutawalli, Abdul Qadir Sahib.
Yes, a parallel thread. His wife Mashida calls him because Ashraf is waiting for some kind of judgment from him.
And this part seems to show potential abuses of power.
I think so. Abdul Qadir's meeting with Yaqub, how they just dismiss Ashraf's situation while focusing on their own comfort. It's concerning.
Amina sees this and disapproves, right?
Mm-hmm. Her internal reaction kind of confirms our reading of the situation. It critiques how people in authority might fail the vulnerable.
And we see Ashraf's desperation waiting at the mosque in the cold with her kids.
Seeking support, yeah. And the Mutawalli just dismisses her, citing Sharia law about multiple wives.
It seems like he's using the law to justify her abandonment rather than help.
That's how it reads. It's a stark portrayal. But then Zulekha Begum steps in.
Ah, yes. She tells Ashraf about her rights within Islam.
Urges her to demand justice. It's a significant moment, offering Ashraf and the reader a bit of hope.
And then that incredibly powerful scene, the women gathering.
In the rain, at the mosque, after Muni's death.
Yeah.
Yes. Their collective action, their solidarity. It's such a stark contrast to the Mutawalli's indifference.
It feels like a real moment of female resistance.
It really is. The rain feels symbolic, like shared grief, shared determination, and how they handle Muni's burial swiftly, respectfully. It emphasizes the community's compassion, unlike the Mutawalli.
Even the women subtly mocking him the next day.
Yeah, it shows a shift, maybe. Their disapproval is clear.
The story also includes that strange bit with Yusuf and Akila.
Oh, right. Where he threatens to marry his own mother to punish Akila for arguing.
Bizarre, but the community steps in.
It is bizarre, but it underlines how strong the social fabric is, how much pressure there is to keep harmony, even with these weird threats. Akila regrets it later.
And then finally there's Razia.
Razia and her huge family, 18 kids.
18. And her solution is a mass circumcision.
Yeah, kind of a practical, if unusual, way to manage things. It's described almost like a festival, a big community event.
But the description of Arif's experience, his fear, the pain, using ash on the wound, it's quite jarring.
It is, especially when you contrast it with how Razia handles her own son's circumcisions later, privately, with a doctor. Proper care.
That really throws the economic differences into sharp relief, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The less privileged kids get the mass procedure, minimal comfort. Razia's kids get the best care.
But then there's that twist.
The irony, yeah. Arif's wound heals fine, but Razia's son Samad gets an infection, and then that tragic accident happens to him.
It makes you question assumptions about privilege and well-being.
It really does. It adds this layer of unpredictable tragedy.
Okay, let's shift gears to High-Heeled Shoe. This one focuses on Nayaz Khan.
Right, and he's feeling very nostalgic. He's renovating the old family home after his brother's family returns from Saudi Arabia.
And they bring back this very different, more affluent lifestyle.
Exactly. That's the core tension. Nayaz's connection to the past versus this modern, more materialistic world represented by his sister-in-law, Nasima.
And her shoes,
Yeah.
the high heels.
Yes. They become this symbol for Nayaz, something he's fascinated by, almost representing this different life.
He wants his own wife, Arifa, to wear them. What do you think that represents?
Well, maybe a longing for a different life himself. or wanting Arifa to be seen differently, perhaps admired, like Naseema seems to be.
Even if it's superficial.
Perhaps. It suggests some dissatisfaction, maybe a misguided focus on glamour, and it contrasts sharply with his practical decision to cut down the old mango tree.
Which means so much to Arifa.
Exactly. It holds her few cherished memories. So his decision highlights this conflict between, say, progress or money and personal history, emotional value.
Arifa's sadness over the tree really underscores that emotional cost. And the relationship between Nayaz and his brother is strained too.
Yeah, and Naseema seems to stir that up with her little taunt.
She seems quite manipulative.
It appears so. And Nayaz, despite being fixated on her shoes, seems somewhat influenced by her. Arifa's just caught in the middle, dealing with these tensions while pregnant.
And the shoes keep coming back.
They do. His fascination becomes almost obsessive. They symbolize something just out of reach for him and Arifa.
Which leads to that scene in the shoe shop.
Oh, that scene. It's quite peculiar, isn't it? He insists Arifa try on high heels.
Even though she's pregnant, uncomfortable, and they normally wear simple sandals, Hawaii chapels.
Right. It's completely impractical. And Arifa's reaction, calling them devil's shoes.
And she starts crying, nearly faints. It's awful.
It really shows the disconnect between his desires and her reality, her needs, especially then. It highlights the emotional distress his misplaced aspirations cause her.
Okay, let's talk about Soft Whispers. This one feels quite different, more nostalgic.
Yes, it shifts to the narrator's childhood memories, visiting her ancestral village for the Urs Festival.
What's the Urs Festival again?
It's an annual event, like a pilgrimage, usually to a Sufi saint's shrine, a time for celebration and community gathering.
And she remembers her grandmother, Aji, very fondly.
Very warmly. It evokes that village life, family bonds, Aji distributing things from a trunk, the kids playing. It's very endearing.
And the frock. That Aji gets Jafar Baba to sew for her.
Yes, and the different reactions to it. The narrator loves it, but her Amijan disapproves.
Highlighting different values again, like city versus village maybe, or just different tastes.
Could be. For the narrator, the simple frock is precious because it's from Aji, linked to those happy memories. Amijan sees it differently, maybe less refined.
Then there's that childhood memory involving Abid and the sparrow.
Right. Trapping the sparrow, the narrator falls and gets hurt. Abid tries to comfort her, but then reveals what happened to the sparrow.
It's quite disturbing.
It is. It's that moment where childhood innocence bumps up against something harsher, even in another child's actions. His attempt at comfort is undermined by this casual cruelty.
And the narrator tells Aji that Abid kissed her cheek.
And Aji reacts immediately, very protectively. It underscores Aji's role as guardian, the sensitivity around interactions, even among kids.
But the surprising part is who Abid becomes later.
Yes, this naughty, uncivilized boy, as the narrator remembers him, grows up to be the respected supervisor of a major dargah, a shrine.
It's quite a transformation.
It suggests people can change, that youthful mistakes don't define a whole life. Adds complexity to him.
And when the narrator meets him as an adult,
It's very formal. There's this distance, maybe an unspoken awareness of their shared but complicated past. Time changes things.
okay, then A Taste of Heaven is really brief, isn't it?
Very brief, but pointed. Just that internal conflict, someone feels annoyed by a loud TV during the azan, the call to prayer, but trying not to lash out.
Captures that everyday tension between personal feeling and religious respect.
Exactly. Suppressing irritation out of respect for religious practice, even when it's inconvenient.
Right. And finally, the big one, Be a Woman Once, O Lord. It starts with Shazia returning from Hajj.
Yes, the pilgrimage.
Yeah.
And there are expectations that come with that socially.
Piety, generosity.
Right. And Yassine Bua is really eager to see Shazia, hoping for a gift, a token from the pilgrimage.
But Shazia avoids her and then is quite harsh when they finally interact.
Yeah, she dismisses Yassine Bua, seems driven by wanting peace and quiet for herself. It shows a more complex, maybe less purely pious side to her.
But there's a hint of guilt later.
I think so. The narrative suggests she feels uneasy, and she later reflects on Yassine Bua's self-respect, realizing the impact of her own unkindness.
The story then has that subplot about finding an Arabic teacher.
Yes, which brings in the teacher who's obsessed with Gobi Manchuri.
Gobi Manchuri.
Yeah.
It's quite a funny light moment in a serious story.
It is a bit of levity. It touches on cultural interests, maybe social boundaries, blurring a bit with him in the kitchen with the daughters. That he gets married, and that thread closes.
But then the story shifts back, and it becomes incredibly profound, the narrator's reflection on her life.
Within those four walls, yes. observing the world only through windows. And that plea,
Be a woman once, oh Lord. It's just devastatingly powerful. It feels like the core of the collection's deeper message.
absolutely. It articulates this deep yearning for freedom, for experiences beyond the severe limits placed on her as a woman in that context, asking why men have such different freedoms. It's incredibly resonant.
And then she tells her own story, her upbringing, the obedience expected, leaving her mother.
Traumatic separation, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the abuse, the emotional torment in her marriage, being abandoned after getting sick, her husband remarrying. It's just brutal. It's a raw, heartbreaking account of suffering within that patriarchal system. But there's that moment of defiance.
Refusing to give up her inherited neck chain for the new wife.
Yes, a small act, but huge in terms of her asserting some agency, holding on to something connected to her mother, her past.
And the ending. The husband returning with the new wife, leaving her and the children destitute.
And that final heart-wrenching plea again for the divine to understand what it's like to be a woman. It's unforgettable. It sums up so much of the collection's emotional weight.
It really does. It feels like an indictment of the society, the burdens placed on women.
A profound yearning for empathy, for real understanding.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Heartlamp, it's clear these stories cover so much ground.
Complex family dynamics, societal expectations, especially for women.
Cultural traditions versus shifts in society.
Economic differences, the search for dignity, for agency against the odds.
And the resilience of these characters. It's remarkable.
Banu Mushtaq's storytelling and Deep Abbasi's translation really brings these intimate struggles and the strength within them to life.
And while they're set in a specific cultural world, the experiences love, loss, struggle, hope feel universal, don't they?
Absolutely. These specific stories give us such profound insights into human emotions, making us consider perspectives far beyond our own.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener. Thinking about that powerful plea, be a woman once, O Lord. How might really trying to shift our own perspectives, questioning those ingrained norms in our own lives?
How might that lead to more empathy, more understanding in our own communities?
It's a powerful question to carry with you.